All right, so you want to be a chief information officer, huh? Pretty cool. We've got some really interesting stuff for you today. We're going deep into 2025 Chief Information Officer interview questions and answers. It's a sneak peek into what it takes to be a tech leader in just a few years. And one thing that really jumped out at me was this isn't just about being some kind of tech genius anymore.
Yeah, you're right on the money there. The CIO of 2025, they've really got to be a business strategist too. Got to be able to connect tech with what the company needs to really, succeed.
So it's less about knowing how to code everything and more about seeing the big picture.
Exactly. Think about it like this. Let's say you're the CIO of a company and they want to be like the next big thing in online education. You need to know not only about all the latest platforms, but also like who the competitors are, what students and teachers need, and how tech can create a really unique learning experience. That's the kind of thinking that makes a good CIO.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do we even start to understand this whole evolving CIO thing?
Well, this source we've got it gives a pretty clear definition. The CIO is the one who's got to steer the whole technology ship, drive something called digital transformation, make sure all the tech stuff matches up with business goals, and manage all that complicated IT infrastructure.
Hold on, digital transformation. What does that even mean?
It's basically a fancy way of saying using tech to totally change how a business works and gives value to its customers. Think about how companies like Netflix changed everything by using tech to totally change their business models. That's digital transformation. And guess who's leading that change? The CIO.
You're telling me the CIO doesn't just make sure the emails work anymore?
Nope, not even close. They need to be like visionaries. They need to be able to see what's coming and make sure their companies stay ahead of the game.
Wow, that's a lot. But okay, let's say you have the vision, you have that big picture thinking, you still have to get through the interview, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's where this source we're looking at really comes in handy. It tells us about 5 kinds of questions they'll ask you in a CIO interview. And these questions aren't just about your tech skills either. They want to know about your leadership, how you think strategically, and can you handle all the challenges that come with being a CIO.
Okay, let's hear about these question categories then. What's the first one we should be ready for?
The first one is all about strategic vision and alignment. Here's where you got to show them you can think like a CEO, turning those business goals into a real tech plan. For example, they might ask, tell me about a time you had to change the IT strategy to match new business goals.
So what are they really looking for with a question like that?
They want to hear about your process. How do you figure out what's needed? How do you decide what's most important? And most importantly, they want to see that you're thinking about the big picture of how tech can make the company successful.
Okay, so you're saying it's all about showing them you're not just a tech person, but that you can be a strategic partner. Gotcha. What's the next type of question?
Next is leadership and influence. Okay, so picture this. You're the new CIO, and you have to convince your team to use a new cloud-based project management system. But some people just don't like change. How do you get everyone on board?
Yeah, I can see how being able to communicate and persuade people becomes super important in a CIO role.
Exactly. They want to know that you can get everyone to agree, deal with tricky people situations, and inspire your team to try new things and new ways of working.
It's like you're leading a big change management initiative from the very beginning. You got to make sure everyone is on the same page and moving in the right direction.
You got it. And that actually leads us right into the next category of interview questions. Technical expertise and innovation. Don't worry, though, they're not going to expect you to start coding right there in the interview.
But they're definitely going to want to know that you know what you're talking about when it comes to tech, right?
Right. They want to see that you get how technology is changing, especially in their specific industry. Put yourself in their shoes. They got to know that you're not going to recommend stuff that's outdated or miss out on using the latest tech to their advantage.
So you got to know the latest trends, especially anything that could affect their particular business.
Exactly. And they'll also be looking to see if you can think critically about all the new technologies.
Right.
Like take AI, for instance. Everyone's talking about it. But how can it be used in a practical way to improve their processes or create new products and services? That's the kind of thinking they're looking for.
It makes sense. You got to show them you can see through the hype and make smart decisions about tech. Okay, what's the next thing on our interview question checklist?
Now we're getting into the details. Yeah. Operational and financial management. Even the most cutting-edge tech is useless if you can't keep things running smoothly and stay within budget.
Right, you can't just spend money on every new gadget that comes out. You have to be smart about it.
Exactly. Let's say you want a new cybersecurity system that's going to make the company much safer from cyber attacks. but it costs a lot. How do you convince the CFO to spend the money?
That's a good question. So you're saying you need to be able to speak the language of business, not just tech. You need to show how it will save money or make money, and also what could happen if they don't buy it.
Yep, exactly. You need to prove you can manage the IT department like a well-oiled machine, making sure that every dollar is spent in a way that helps the company reach its goals.
So a CIO isn't just a tech person, but a business person too.
You got it. And that takes us to the last category of questions, one that's more and more important in today's world: risk management and compliance.
Okay, tell us about that. What kind of questions should we be ready for in this area?
Think about all those stories about data breaches and hacks. Those are the things that keep CEOs up at night. They want to know you can protect their company's data and systems. So be ready for questions about your experience with things like risk management frameworks, data protection policies, and compliance standards, especially in cybersecurity.
So you can't just build cool tech, you have to build it securely too.
Exactly. You need to show them you understand all the new threats out there and that you have a plan to reduce risks and follow all the rules.
This makes sense. But before we go on, I just want to take a minute to talk to our listener directly. You're probably listening to all this and thinking, wow, this is a lot. And you know what? You're right. It is. But don't get discouraged. We're here to break it all down for you and give you what you need to succeed.
That's right. This is about giving you the knowledge and the confidence to go after your goals of being a CIO.
Okay, so we've gone through the 5 main types of questions they'll ask in a CIO interview. But here's the good news. It's not just about them grilling you with questions. You can flip things around and ask them questions too.
Exactly. It's a two-way street. You're checking them out just like they're checking you out.
So how do we do that in a good way? What kinds of questions should we be asking them?
Our source has some really smart questions that you can use to get a better sense of the company, the culture, and what the job is really like.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's hear them. What's the first question?
The first one is, how does the organization see the role of the CIO in driving business innovation and transformation? This question is great because it tells you how the company thinks about the CIO. Do they see it as a strategic partner who drives change and innovation? Or do they just see it as someone who keeps the tech running?
Yeah, that's an important difference. You don't want to end up in a job where you and the company have totally different ideas about what you'll be doing.
Exactly. It's about making sure your values and goals line up with their culture and plans.
What's the next question?
The second one is, can you talk about any recent or upcoming IT projects that reflect the company's strategic priorities? This is a way to see what they're really doing with technology. Are they using cutting-edge solutions? Are they taking on big digital transformation projects? This tells you how tech-savvy and ambitious the company is.
And it also shows them that you're interested in their company and how you can help them succeed, not just any CIO job.
Exactly. It proves you've done your research and you're thinking strategically about how your skills can meet their needs.
I like it. What's the last question we should ask?
The last one is all about problem solving. What are the biggest tech challenges the company is facing right now, and how can the CIO help solve them? This lets you act like a consultant, showing off your problem-solving skills and strategic thinking. By figuring out what their tech headaches are, you can show them how your experience can help them fix those problems.
And it also gives you a chance to see if you'd actually be interested in tackling those challenges. I mean, you want a job where you can make a real difference and use your skills to solve problems you care about.
Absolutely. It's all about finding a role that matches your passions and gives you a chance to grow and make a real impact.
This is really insightful. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to zoom out and talk about the big picture. What does it really take to be a successful CIO in 2025? We know it's not just tech skills, right?
You got it. It's about those essential qualities that make a truly great leader. And luckily for us, this source we're using actually gives us 7 key things every CIO should work on.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are those 7 magic ingredients for CIO success?
First up is business acumen. We've touched on this already, but it's about being as comfortable talking about profit margins as you are about cloud architecture. You need to understand how businesses work and see the link between tech investments and results.
So if you want to upgrade a big software system, you can't just talk about the tech. You have to explain how it will affect the bottom line, too.
Exactly. You got to be able to put a number on the return on investment, the potential cost savings, and the risks of not doing it.
Okay, what's the next thing on the list?
Next is leadership, obviously. This is all about inspiring your team to achieve great things, building a culture of innovation and working together, and being able to communicate your vision and get everyone on board.
So leading in the tech world is a lot like leading in any other field, right? You have to motivate people, build relationships, and create a sense of purpose.
You nailed it. It's about creating an environment where people feel valued, have power, and are inspired to do their best.
Okay, what's next?
Technical expertise. We already talked about this when we were going over interview questions. But it's important to emphasize that CIOs really need to understand the tech behind their business, as well as the new trends that are shaping the industry.
It's not about knowing every single coding language or being a cybersecurity pro, but about having a good understanding of the whole tech landscape and making smart choices about how to use it to reach business goals.
Right. And it's also about always being a learner, constantly looking for new knowledge and staying ahead of the curve. Because tech changes fast, you got to keep up.
Okay, I'm writing this down. Lifelong learning check. What's next on the list?
Change management. We mentioned this before, but it's so important for CIOs, especially with how fast tech changes. Think back to a time when you had to adapt to a new tech or a new way of working. What was that like? Were you against it? Were you excited? How did you help your team through that change?
That's a great question. And it shows that change management isn't just about putting new tech in place. It's about leading people through that change, listening to their concerns, and helping them get comfortable with the new way of doing things.
Exactly. It's about communication, empathy, and understanding how change affects people individually.
Okay, we're making good progress here. What's next?
Risk management and compliance. You can't ignore this in our digital world. CIOs are the ones who have to protect their companies from cyber attacks, data breaches, and all those legal nightmares. They need to understand the risks their organization faces and put strong security policies and procedures in place.
So it's not just about installing antivirus software and calling it a day. You have to think strategically about risk, figure out where you're vulnerable, and take steps to fix those vulnerabilities.
Exactly. And it's not just about the tech either. It's about people, too. You get to teach your team about cybersecurity, create a culture of safety, and make sure everyone knows their part in protecting the company's data and systems.
Okay, two more left. What's next?
Communication and collaboration. This might seem obvious, but it's often forgotten. CIOs need to be able to talk to lots of different people, from tech experts to business leaders to board members. They need to be able to explain complicated tech stuff in a way that anyone can understand, get everyone to agree, and make different departments work together.
So it's almost like being a translator, bridging the gap between the tech world and the business world.
Exactly. And it's not just about talking, it's about listening, too. You got to understand what different people need and want and find ways to make those needs work with the company's tech strategy.
Okay, I'm noticing a pattern here. Being a CIO is all about connecting the dots, whether it's tech to business goals, different departments, or even just connecting with people. What's the last one on our list?
Data-driven decision-making. This is getting more important in every part of business, but it's super crucial for CIOs. You got to be able to collect, analyze, and understand data to make good decisions about tech investments, how things are run, and even strategic planning.
So you can't just go with your gut anymore. You have to back up your choices with data and show how those choices are making the company better.
Right on. It's about using data to see your progress, figure out what needs improvement, and make decisions based on evidence to move the company forward.
Wow, this has been a fantastic overview of what it takes to be a successful CIO in 2025. But before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listener with something to think about.
Ooh, a cliffhanger. I love it.
Well, it's not really a cliffhanger, but it is a challenge. Picture yourself 5 years from now, sitting in the CIO's office at your dream company. What one skill from this list are you going to start working on today to make that dream come true?
It's a really great question. And you know something, it's not just about learning new stuff. It's about choosing that one skill you're really going to work on to make a difference in your career.
It's like picking your superpower, right?
Yep.
And even starting small can lead to big things later on. Okay, but let's change gears a little bit and talk about actually getting that CIO job. You could have all the right skills and the vision, but you still got to nail that interview.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's where our source is super helpful. It gives some really good tips on how to get ready for a CIO interview and how to stand out. It's like having a cheat sheet for the whole thing.
Okay, so tell us about these tips. What's the first one?
The first one is super basic, but people mess it up all the time.
Mm.
Do your homework. And I don't mean just taking a quick look at their website before you walk in.
You mean like really digging deep?
Exactly. Really research the company. Know their tech, their online presence, any tech problems they've had recently. That shows them you're serious and that you actually care about their needs.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like going to a dinner party and knowing something about the other people there instead of just talking about yourself the whole time.
Right. It's all about connecting. Speaking of connecting, the next tip is to really understand the company's overall business strategy. CIOs these days aren't just tech people, they're strategic business partners.
So, what does that look like in real life?
It means understanding how the company makes money, what's happening in their industry, and their big goals. Let's say they're trying to be the top company for sustainable packaging. You got to be able to talk about how tech can help them do that, not just the tech stuff, but the business side too.
So, you have to connect their goals to how technology can help them get there.
Exactly. And that leads us right into our next tip. Be ready to talk about leadership and change management. You have to walk in there and not just say you're a good leader, but explain how you've actually led people through change.
So, if they ask about your leadership style or how you handle tough situations, you need to have specific examples.
You got it. Don't just say you're a great leader. Prove it. Talk about times when you had to learn new tech, motivate your team, or fix a conflict. Those real-life stories are what they want to hear.
It's all about showing, not just telling.
Exactly. Now, this next tip is so important for anyone who wants to be a tech leader. You have a DE to stay updated on new technologies. Things change so fast in tech, you got to be ahead of the game.
So, if you're still talking about what was popular 5 years ago, you're already behind.
Pretty much. They want to see that you're not just keeping up, but that you're looking at new tech and thinking about how to use it to solve real problems for the business.
So, how do you even stay ahead when things change so fast? Got any advice for our listener?
It's about making time to always be learning. Read industry stuff, go to conferences, take online courses, whatever works for you. Just be curious and always be looking for new information.
It's not just about knowing the tech, it's about wanting to learn and grow all the time. Makes sense. Okay, what's next on the list?
This one is about looking back at what you've done. Think about your past IT projects and what you achieved. This is your chance to show what you've done and prove you can deliver.
But it's more than just listing projects.
Yeah, sure. Don't just tell them what you did. Tell them about the challenges you faced, the solutions you came up with, and the actual results you got.
So instead of just saying, I put in a new CRM system, you should say, I put in a new CRM system that boosted sales by 15% and made customers 10% happier.
Exactly. Use numbers whenever you can. Numbers are powerful, especially in business.
Great advice. What else do we need to know about rocking that interview?
This one's often forgotten. Have some good questions ready to ask them. Remember, you're interviewing them too.
What kind of questions should we ask?
Ask questions that show you really care about the company and the job. Like you can ask about their long-term tech plans or how the CIO role fits into their overall strategy. You could also ask about their company culture, what they value, or any chances to learn and grow professionally.
So you're getting info to decide if it's the right company for you.
Right. And it shows them that you're curious, you're paying attention, and you're thinking like a leader.
Okay, I'm really liking these tips. Anything else?
The last tip, and it's super important, do mock interviews. No, it might sound silly, but it's one of the best ways to get ready.
So like find a friend, a mentor, or a career coach to do a practice interview with you.
Exactly. Practice answering common questions out loud, work on how you present yourself, and get feedback. The more you practice, the more confident you'll be on the big day.
It's like a dress rehearsal before a play.
Exactly. The more you rehearse, the better you'll do. And there you have it, all the essential skills, interview tips, and strategic insights you need to know to be a successful CIO in 2025.
This has been so helpful. But becoming a CIO, it's not a one-time thing, right? It takes
Right.
dedication, always learning, and really being committed to being the best leader you can be.
And it's not just about getting to the end. It's about enjoying the journey, facing the challenges, and always pushing yourself to grow.
That's such a good point. But before we finish up this episode, we want to hear from you, our listener.
Yes, we've talked about a lot today. What really stuck with you? What are you taking away from all of this?
Go to our social media and share your thoughts using hashtag DeepDiveCIO. We love hearing from you, and it's great to learn from your experiences too.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to see so many people out there who are passionate about tech and leadership.
Definitely, it reminds us that becoming a CIO, it's not something you have to do alone. It's about sharing what we know and supporting each other.
Talking about support, we have one more bit of advice from our source we want to share with you today. It's kind of a small shift in how you think that can really make a difference.
Oh, interesting. I'm all ears.
It's about how you approach the whole interview process. We've been talking about answering those tough questions, showing off your skills, and asking good questions of your own. But there's something else that people often forget.
Okay, I'm listening.
You're interviewing them too. It's easy to get caught up in trying to impress them and get the job.
Yeah.
But don't forget that you're also checking them out. You're deciding if this company really fits what you want and what you believe in.
So it's like a two-way street. You're both trying to see if you can work well together.
Exactly. And just like they're looking for good signs from you, you should be looking for any warning signs from them. They want to know you're not just after any CIO job, but that you're interested in their company and how you can help them succeed.
Right. It's about finding a company where they actually value what makes you unique.
Yep. And just like in any relationship, you got to be yourself. Don't try to be someone you're not or pretend to have all the answers. Be honest about your strengths and your weaknesses. Share what you want for the future and ask those tough questions that help you figure out if this is a place where you can really grow.
Because in the end, the best match is when both sides are excited to work together. It's about finding that place where you can make a real difference and feel like you're part of something bigger.
You said it. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of the CIO in 2025. We hope you found it helpful and inspiring.
We've covered so much from strategic thinking and leadership skills to how to ace those interviews and all the latest in tech. But the most important thing to remember is this.
Becoming a CIO is a journey. It never really ends. It's all about always learning, growing, and pushing yourself to be the best leader you can be.
So stay curious, stay ambitious, and keep exploring everything that tech has to offer.
We'll be here rooting for you all the way.